Your host, thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. As usual, we have some great video to show. Let me get my camera maladjusted, which is actually maladjusted, but let's go ahead and get it done right. Okay, anyhow, folks, welcome aboard, welcome aboard, welcome aboard, welcome aboard to AVQ. In before the restream bot loaded. That just means you are that good, my friend. That's all it means. You are that good. What else have we got here? We've got Yvette Avery Herod. Yvette, how is it going with the striking? I trust all is going fine. Well, not striking anymore. I trust that you guys are going to pass that the new strike, not bill, but the agreement. Rodnan has a long one for us. He says, credit where deserved. At least some conservatives will wake up and change their minds after they realize they've been thoroughly lied to. Raw story. Conservative cries bitter tears after Trump allies admit election lies. It was all BS. Conservative broadcaster Steve Ducey complained bitterly that Donald Trump allies admitted to lies about the election that he helped spread. The Blaze TV host promoted Trump's election lies and raising money for the Stop the Steal movement in 2020. Much to his belated chagrin, Steve Ducey said, "We are going to the mattresses for these people. We're offering them more accommodations, more chances than we'd ever offer our own family members, for goodness sake. And for what? For Rudy Giuliani to go down to Georgia and admit that he lied. Have Jason Miller tell the Jan 6 Commission, yeah, we all knew it was BS. What is this? Some of you don't like it when I use the cult word, when you like being treated like a schmuck and ask for more. That is a cult. I am the mark. I am the sucker. I want to be such. I resent the person who tries to get me out that. These are marks of groupthink. Frankly, how many people in his audience sent money to Stop the Steal? A lot did. You know that, Mike. 3 years ago, how many shows did I waste your time talking about this 3 years ago? How many between election fraud and COVID? I still have not recovered. Why? He added, because I went to the mattresses on COVID and the election fraud issue only to have Rudy Giuliani. Yeah, I was lying. And Jason Miller say, oh, we knew it was all BS. And you still went through with it. But what do you expect? Egberto in the parlor. How you doing? Bruce Pollard is in the house, as so is Lee Grant. And AVQ says, my usual first post didn't show, watching from Twitch. Maywood is in the house. Good afternoon, everyone, he says. And Melanie Keelan is here with us from Barcelona, Spain. Melanie, it's a great having you here today. I'm going to get started right away because we have two fairly good interviews that I want. Well, one interview and a cut that I did from this morning's show on Social Security to cover what we ended with on Friday. I wanted to clarify things because a lot of folks would have seen what Mike Cisak came out with and said, look, if you put $200 a month in the bank on compound interest for 50 years, there's going to be close to $1 million. It's all, I do some more explaining to do because, I mean, that is a simplistic form that they're talking about. I wanted to get around that. But let's go ahead and get started with El Senor Brett Spransky, with Brett Spransky, who is the executive producer of the Rick Smith Show, a good friend of mine now. I want you to listen to what he has to say, and then we'll take it on the other side. Brett Spransky from the Rick Smith Show. How you doing, my brother?
Fantastic. How
nice
are you doing?
to see you. I mean, it's been I talked to Rick a few minutes ago, and what I told Rick is, hey, it's been a year ago, but actually it's not a year. We did last year was in August.
Yep, so we're a little under a year.
We're under a year, so it's like 11 months. What am I doing seeing you after 11 months? It's supposed to be a year, man. How you doing today, Rick?
I'm doing great.
Rick, how you doing today, Brett? Yeah.
I'm doing great, having a great day, having a great time here at Netroots. It's been a great show.
I know. It's I mean, what I like about this one, the last one was the first one after the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So you could see people a little bit more iffy in their behavior and the way they were doing. It's almost coming back to what Netroots has always been.
Yeah, I mean, but still, there's still some residuals from the pandemic.
Because we're still
there's still a lot of there's still a lot of masks in the room. There's still a lot of people taking a lot of precautions, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But it's a little more open, a little more like I said, it's a little less reserved than it was, say, last year.
And it's a good thing. I mean, we have the vaccines now, and so, I mean, if you get COVID now, you get a little something, and, it's not as bad as it was before.
Right.
So, I mean, a friend of mine, I did my show earlier today, and he said, Egberto, I'm here, I'm recovering from COVID. Mm-hmm. So you're still hearing it, but the good thing about it is we have the solutions for it right now, and it shows here in the amount of exhibits we get and all the other things,
Yeah, and it was something that I, like many people, suffered through it.
Yeah,
and it's no picnic.
No,
but the fact that I was vaccinated and things like that made it a lot easier than it could have been.
Absolutely.
So it was, the miracles of technology.
I know, but hey, Brett, let's talk our business now.
Sure.
How that year? In this almost a year? What differences are there? What's your concerns? What are you happy about as a broadcaster?
As a broadcaster, one thing that I've noted in the past year, because we've had tremendous growth.
Right.
We're in probably twice as many markets as we were this time last year. And people have been really receptive to the message.
Right.
And this kind of, because right now, for example, you talk about the administration pushing out this middle out economy message and thing. This runs right in line with what we talk about pretty much each and every day. So we kind of consider ourselves to be middle out media. Mm-hmm. So, seeing this message not only, become a part of the administration's, big push towards 2024 and so on, see all that fall in line with what we do and see the progress of the show and see the listeners and audience growing tremendously like it is, see the TV show on free speech, becoming one of the fastest growing programs on their air.
How many days are you on free speech?
Currently, we're on 3, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 o'clock. But wewe're hoping sometime in the very near future to go
5 days
to go nightly, to go nightly. And then hopefully, sometime in the near future, we'll go twice a day. We'll go, we'll have a morning program and an evening program too.
Yeah, well, that is fun, but I tell you, that's difficult. I'm doing 2 programs, just one on radio and one radio and streaming and one streaming only. It's a lot of work. The good thing is you guys have a larger team. Well, I have a team of 1. You have a team of many.
Yeah, well, we have a team of a few paid individuals and a lot of what I like to call fire-breathing do-gooders who just do it because they love it, because they care.
Yeah, and it's that. Believe it or not, that tells you that you're doing something right. Mm-hmm. Because when people actually want to volunteer to do this kind of work, especially this kind of work, it actually speaks well. Not only about what you're doing, but the people that you're doing it with.
Exactly, and the people we're doing it for. I mean, because a lot of those supporters are the people who call in on the phone lines during the show, and we have regular folks we talk to almost every program because they're just so loyal about calling in and talking to us.
Isn't that kind of fun when you have that following that. The same. I mean, I like getting new calls, and you're doing something right when you get a constancy of those who call, but also interspersed with that, you get that new caller that just get that courage to call. It says you're doing something.
Oh, I love first time callers.
Yeah,
even if we have to tell them to turn down the radio.
Yes, so we always have to tell them to turn down the radio.
But we love first time callers, but in this business nowadays, there's not a whole lot of us anymore who are going into a bigger studio, and broadcasting from the local radio station or something like that. Many of us are at home in our home studios, and many of those home studios have one person in them.
Yes.
So knowing that the world is out there listening to what you're doing, so you need that contact, that validation, because it's real easy to think, well, it's just me here, in a room talking into a microphone. It's real easy to get that. Get that feeling that no one's out there listening and you're doing it for yourself. So the constant feedback and the audience reaching out and speaking to us really validates what we do. And that's one of the reasons why events like this are so important, because those same people are here and we get to see them face to face. Watching someone cross the room to meet us because they listen to us or because they watch a show on Free Speech TV. I don't think they're fully aware of just how much that means to us because, again, we spend so much of our time essentially in a box.
Yeah, I tell that story all the time. When I tell people this is their program, a lot of times they don't believe it, but they don't understand that really we have the passion, but we really get the validation from them. Mm-hmm. And the only way we know that the validation is there is if we have context. So in the case when I'm doing my online show, it's a chat that I'm interacting with. And these people are chatting away as they're watching the video cast on the thing. On radio, it's the telephone calls. You know what I did recently? One of our listeners said, Egberto, you need to get phone access for your online show. So what I found a company called Ring Central, and I bring that right into the computer system. And now we can have people dial into the thing as they're seeing it online. And it is amazing because the feedback it brings us. The people online don't necessarily always want to do chat and call in. But for that person that you said something that, you either piss me off or I want to validate it, they like to have that avenue. So you're right. There's nothing more than getting that validation from your audience.
True. And it sometimes causes a few issues here and there, though, as well. For example, our show is on, every night at 9 p.m. Eastern time on the radio all over the place. Right. And we're always giving out the phone number to call in. Yeah. Well, the TV show on free speech comes out at 9 o'clock as well, but it's sometimes a day behind or it's sometimes a few hours behind.
And you get a call.
We'll get a call on live air wanting to talk about an issue they just saw on TV that we're not talking about in the segment on air on the radio that night. And it causes a little bit of cross chatter that's, that can be difficult, but like anything else, we're just glad they're calling.
Yeah. Well, I tell you recently what I've started doing when I use segments from my on air show is I try to cut those out, but it's a lot of work, and it is just too much work to cut out. Where you say call, so you got to cut call, and then keep the program.
Or when it's on our TV program, I'm running the number on the bottom of the screen, and
oh no, that's an issue too.
Yeah, and we're not going to stop doing that.
Yeah,
so.
No, you can't stop doing that, right? But not only that, it's not a bad thing, right? Because a lot of people see the number on that particular day. And they use that and they're going to call some other time. So that is fine. That is fine also.
That's true.
Now, politically speaking what's your thoughts? Where are we at?
We're in a weird place.
I know, but where are we, what's your thought? I mean, we were a bit pessimistic, I think, earlier on. Personally, I'm more optimistic. Where are you?
I would say I'm leaning towards the more optimistic side of things. Yeah. Now, anyone who lived through 2015, 2016, to guard your optimism. Yes. These days, because the unthinkable can happen. Because no one thought that Trump could be elected until he was. Right. And many people didn't believe it days afterwards.
Exactly.
You're like, I'm sorry, what happened? There's no way that could have happened, but it did.
For me, it was just hurt because I hate to tell you. I went on to Daily Kos and I wrote an article and said that Donald Trump was, what is it that Clinton knew how to do very well? Triangulating. Mm-hmm. He knew how to triangulate. Clinton is a guy from Arkansas. He knows about triangulation.
Right.
Okay. And Trump was just playing that number and people looked at it and like, it can't work because, progressive, no, he's just talking up his what. But no, he was doing what it took. And there's a particular segment in our society his message appeals to.
And it really does. I mean, it's kind of Trump was able to tap into an emotion. Yes. And it's a real emotion because there are things going on now that are distressing. When I was a small child, I lived in a single income household. Right. My father was able to make enough money to support the entire household because those jobs existed. Right. They don't exist so much anymore. Exactly. And we've gone from one income households to two income households. Now I just saw a report the other day that said 50% of American workers have a second job. Yeah. That means if you have two workers in the house, say a mother and a father, there are at least three jobs. We now live in 3 income households on average, and our life expectancy is dropping. Our standard of living has not increased. In fact, it's decreased. Wages are flat or declining against yearly inflation. Right. And so there's a lot of struggle out there, and struggle is where radicalism comes from.
Exactly.
If desperation rises, radicalism will rise right along with it. And that's whether you're talking about, our country or, countries halfway across the globe who don't like us very much. Many times the radicalization you see in these companies or in these countries is tied to that same kind of desperation.
Right.
People who don't have the same access to good jobs, good lives, the ability to provide for their families,
Right.
and, you know, and create a good future for the next generation. When you take these things away, people will go out there. They'll look for a sense of belonging. They'll look for a sense of community. They'll look for a sense of hope. And if the people who are going to provide that to you are also going to ask you to do dangerous, radical things, you're much more likely to do them. So
Right.
radicalism here and radicalism halfway around the globe are all the same cause.
I think, Brett, one of the things we got to do is that I think that's why our work, as not sufficiently funded as it is it's our only saving grace.
Yep.
I've thought that for a long time. That's why I do it. I know that's why you do it, because there's a lot of other things that really we could do that really pays.
Right.
And, but we understand also that, we have kids, those that depend on us. We have to leave them something better.
Yeah, I'm gonna misquote this. The saying is going to be incorrect, but it's the gist of it will be there. If there must be trouble, if there must be conflict, let it be in my time.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is we would rather have that conflict, because I don't want to leave this for my kids.
Exactly.
I don't want my children to have to deal with a situation that I didn't spend my life trying to make better.
Exactly.
So yeah, there are a lot of places out there where I could make my life more comfortable.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? But I don't want that.
And it is amazing, right? I mean, and I always talk about the psychopath, right? The psychopath is a person who revels in somebody else's misfortune. And I find a lot of that. And it's not, I want to say on the right, but it's not completely fair, because a lot of my brothers and sisters on the right, they're suffering. Mm-hmm. They just think they're suffering for the wrong reason.
Right. Right. And that wrong reason is usually someone who doesn't look like them.
Exactly.
And keep in mind, that's all constructed. Right. I mean, that is, using the old Jay Gould quote that we use on the air all the time. I can always hire one half of the working class to murder the other half. This is all, but there's more to it than that. That's not just a useful tool to get one group to turn on another group. It's also a tool to keep them from coming together.
Exactly.
So what we'll find, and we find this everywhere we go. We travel around the country, and we don't go from big city to big city. Yeah. Like, we go from, what we like to call factory towns, mm-hmm. those mid-sized and small towns where there used to be a plant in town that was the main job feeder for the entire community, and that would spread out to all the other places. And the entire town was able to live, off of that one or two major employers. Yeah. All of those places are gone. Now those places today, the number one employer is the hospital. The number two employer is the rehab clinic.
And you know what is so funny about that, Brett? You said the number one employer is the hospital. And with what they're trying to do with our healthcare system right now, even that is in danger. Rural areas.
Especially in rural hospitals.
And the thing about it is the people who will save that area is the people we support. Mm-hmm. And they are, it is something that I blame, to put it bluntly, a lot of the Democratic politicians in office. A couple of days on my show, my radio show, I said, imagine if every time a hospital closed in rural Pennsylvania, rural Texas, rural California, rural Florida, we got a band of politicians, Democratic politicians, who support things like the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act. Imagine if at the closing of those institutions, they stood up there and they say, brought to you courtesy of name by name, all the folks who voted in a manner that created that reality. Mm-hmm. But we don't do that, or the consultants don't tell them to do that. Right. And because they live in another world.
Right. And that's correct. And I'm gonna bring up another kind of old metaphor where there's a story about, you ever heard of the story about the boiling a frog?
Yes, I use that all the time.
Yeah, if you take a frog and throw it in the boiling water, it's going to hop out. Right. But if you put the frog in normal kind of room temperature water and slowly turn up the heat, the frog will sit there and cook. We're cooking. Yes. You know what I mean? And because it's happening slowly, I'll give you an example. I live in Ohio. Mm-hmm. In Ohio, only 25% of the counties in the entire state have even one OBGYN. Wow. So, only a quarter of the counties in Ohio have it. Right? That's correct. Most people have to travel, at least 50, 60, 70 miles to get to an OBGYN. God, I thought. And that dynamic is all over the place. You'll find this, and if you look for these numbers throughout the states, you're going to find a shocking number of counties in your state, that do not have access
And
at all.
I bet they are mostly rural counties, right?
Exactly. You'll have the major cities, the counties with the major cities will have dozens, and then you go one layer outside of that, and there is zero.
None. Yeah.
So everyone has to go to the city. So if you don't live, within 50, 60 miles of a major metropolitan area, there's access you don't get. And if you drill down into like mental health care and things like, numbers get worse. They don't get better; they get worse.
Yeah.
So it's a real problem. And again, one of those things. As long as we're hiring one half of the working class to murder the other half, which is what keep in mind, there are corporate entities out there pay a lot of money to get that dynamic. I mean, like we go to war with the right wing media all the time.
Right.
But the one thing that the public doesn't know is almost every single one of these guys on the right doesn't believe a word that comes out of their mouth.
No, they don't.
They're just getting paid.
They got vaccines. They also, about the drugs that they advertise on. It is amazing that many people don't realize that yet. But you know what? That's why we are here.
That's exactly why we're here.
Give me a closer, brother.
Well, I tell you what, I'll go ahead and and pitch the show a little bit for folks who aren't familiar. The Rick Smith Show is a show by working people for working people. It's run by a 30-year Teamster, a truck driver, a UPS guy who might soon be on strike.
Yeah. Oh, is it UPS?
Yes.
Okay, wow.
Yes, that's who he's driving for. And in every day we concern ourselves with the lives of working families in America. What we get right and what we get wrong is all in the service of making lives better for American working people and talking about the issues that American working people care about.
Brett, it's been a pleasure to have
Always
you on
a pleasure.
Politics and
Always
Thank you
a
so
pleasure.
kind of my brother.
Thank you.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. Well, Bruce is actually right. That was done in Chicago at the Netroots Nation conference. Had a lot of fun there. Michael Rudden says, when my mom got COVID earlier this year, she suffered lasting effects for about 2 months. I also got COVID at the same time, but I was vaccinated, so it didn't hit me very hard. No lasting effects after 3 days of misery. I only had 1 day of misery, if I recall correctly. Michael Rudden also said, for 3 years, I did everything I could to avoid catching COVID, to make sure my mom don't suffer, getting vaccinated, wearing masks, social distances, avoiding touching my face while outside, washing hands first thing coming out inside, etc. I was worried, rightfully, but we got over COVID eventually. If Bridge MCP is in the house, how is my beautiful Bridge MCP doing today? I think I missed you. Did we miss you on Friday, or were you here on Friday? I don't remember. All right. Melanie Keelan says, is there an Ask Egberto this Saturday? You bet there's an Ask Egberto this Saturday. So don't forget, folks, to go to politicsdoneright.com/Ask Egberto and sign up. It's free. Michael Ronan says, Egberto, always prefer it when you read out comments in between videos and other contents. That's what I'm doing, my friend. That's what I'm doing. I know about TTS. You sent me there before. I'll be frank with you. I couldn't figure out the integration as far as how best to do it. Maybe some other time I'll get a chance to spend more time doing that, but I couldn't at this point. Lee Grant says, we are in a weird place thanks to post-mortem leftist ideology. I like the kind of words you use, my brother Lee Grant. Stop articulating these kinds of words, because I did a cut today with a Republican that called into the show this morning. I want to clean it up some to make it flow a little bit better so that you can see, guess what? Turns out he wants the same thing that I want. I don't have horns. Eric Hayes says, Devon Archer, do try to quiet him over the weekend, but got caught and backtracked. I guess that story is going to get some legs now, but it's not going to get it here. All right, let's see what else we got here. Maywood is in the house. He said, Michael Rudden, the first time I had no symptoms. This last time it got to my lungs. Oh my God, and lasted a couple of weeks. But I don't seem to have any lasting problems from it. My sister, on the other hand, is still suffering from long COVID. Our blessings to your sister, my brother. Our blessings to your sister. Michael Rudden says Clinton triangulation, political math to get coalitions rather than popular supermajority polling addressing issues on their face. Exactamente is one of the worst things Democrats have done lately. Our politics have gone away from the core ideas that government should do well by what its citizens want. That whole consent of the governed idea that has enshrined in the Declaration of Independence. No lo podía decir mejor que lo has dicho usted. I couldn't say it any better than you've said it, my friend. Let's see what else we got here. May I've had a new family member who got long COVID. It screwed up with their senses of smell and taste. So it's not that they lost their senses, but that they were warped, severely impacted their quality of life for nearly a year. Sad. Bridge MCP says, thanks to Republic KKK ideology, say no to people, but yes to corporations. Daniel Edo says, oh, you are going to get the conflict heading towards us like a freight train. Really? Alberto, trolls have psychopathic tendencies. Psychology Today. Internet trolls are narcissist psychopaths and say this. Trolls will lie, exaggerate, and offend. I see. I don't think that's a picture, so I'll leave that alone. Eric Hayes says, oh, like the coal plants? No, we don't. But he says, well, that explains DL Michael, and we can continue. Michael Rudden, Eric Hayes, coal burning is the leading cause of global warming. Remind them of that, please, Bridge MCP. Egberto, question, why would DOJ stop at 40 indictments? I'm sure they can make up 5 more for a total of 45 for the 45th. That way, Orange Boogeyman can gloat. I guess that's a good joke, right? Eric, where is coal burning and what is the most prevalent greenhouse gas? What is your reference? He doesn't need any reference, Bruce. All right. Michael says a whole slow boiling a frog. Scientists actually tested that. Turns out the parable is false. A healthy frog will jump out when the temperature gets too hot. Perhaps we shouldn't learn something from that. Let's see what else we have. But you know, even though it's false, it has a ring to it, doesn't it? All right. Bree says my town has no traffic lights out in farm country, but we have close access to dock. Some travel back and forth. Yes, that's good, doctors. Bruce Pollard closing up jobs in coal mines via green energy has laid off tons of workers. But you know what? Green energy pays a lot more and hires a lot more because coal mines can be run with a minimal amount of people, where in the past it needed a lot of people. One machine takes the job of probably 50 miners. All automated, sir. All automated. That's how it really works, sir. Eric Hayes, just know that we on the left want to get big money out of politics as the underlying issues that adversely affects every other issue we the people care about, to enact federally funded elections, to enact ranked choice voting in elections, and to strip corporations of personhood rights. I wonder if you would support such, as the result would be a dismantling of the two-party duopoly, though the Republican Party, which relies mostly on big money donors, would fall first. Exactly right. And Breach says, Rudden and Eric Hayes, just know that we on the left want to get big money. Oh, you reposted that for us, Senor Rudden. Thank you so kindly. All right, let's go to the second video. And this is a video that I did this morning on my show with regards to Social Security. I wanted to clear it up from the ending of the show that we had yesterday, not yesterday, on Friday, because I think Mike Cisak kind of made a splash when you did that accounting via the compounding interest, which was correct. He was right, but there were a lot of missing pieces, of which I think I clarified quite a few of them as you watch this next video. Here we go.
Over the last several days, there is a caller, and I hope he can call in, because now I'm apt to discuss the subject in more detail, and it has to do with Social Security. Before he hung up, I said, I agree with the numbers that you're just saying, but I didn't get a chance to really tell him all of the buts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let me tell you exactly what we were discussing, what we were talking about. I don't know if he's a MAGA person, a right-wing person. He comes across, Brian, that is the person who calls in. He comes across as, I think, maybe a MAGA person. And by the way, that doesn't, I want everybody to call in. I love everybody. I want to talk to everybody. And I'm not saying that as a cliche. I actually mean that, because that is the only way we're going to change our world, our country, etc., that we involve absolutely everybody. So anyhow, he called in and he made certain statements. The first thing he called in about was, hey, Friday made his day. And why did Friday make his day? Or Thursday, I think it was. Why did it make his day the day before? Because the plea deal with the Biden crime family, specifically Hunter Biden, fell through. And he was happy about that. And, it made his day. My question to him was, did it make anything within your life any better with all the commotion that we're talking about Biden, what Hunter Biden did or anything? Did that change your financial outcome, that of your family, your friends, anybody? And the answer, of course, is no. He felt like somebody stick it to the bad guys, right? And made him feel good about that. And that is the magic of what the plutocracy does, right? They fill us up with hate for the other. And in doing so, we take our eyes off the ball, the things that are really important to us, because we get somebody on the other side. We get that liberal. We get that conservative. We get that. And we really get it, right? But ultimately speaking, we get nothing, because nothing changes for our own personal economies. Nothing changes, right? So that's the thing that I wanted to get across to him. And he honestly, he answered the question honestly. He said, no, nothing changed for me, which is the truth. What he's sticking with, and he wanted to call in almost every day and talk about, was that Social Security was a Ponzi scheme, and that somehow it did us wrong, and that Social Security, if he made the minimum wage, $7.25 an hour, and worked the 40-hour week, that meant that he's paying about $100 and something in Social Security. He would be paying a month, right? At that wage, you'd be paying about $100 and something in Social Security a month, and your employer paid the other $100. And in his calculation, he included both the employer and the employee contribution, which in the calculation shouldn't really be done, because if the employer, if you're saving your money, the employer is not necessarily responsible for giving you anything. The employer sees you saving your own money and him not having to pay taxes on your employment as just another tax break. But so the numbers that he came out was not accurate based on how it is. Although I went ahead and did the calculations as he did with the employer portion as well. But what he fails to understand, right, is that these are the concepts that he has, how somebody ends up with about $800-something thousand or even close to $1 million. He made he did different amortizations on the way it ran, and he went ahead and he said, well, that person who's a minimum wage person, if he puts away that $200-something a month, they'll end up with close to $1 million in savings. And that is likely more than they would extract from Social Security. And on the top, it seems like that may be true. And, as I did my program at 3:00 as well, there was another young man, another MAGA person that came with the same scenario, Michael Cisak, and he came and he said the same thing. And, I said, oh, my God, you know what? I'm going to have to take up this subject more in detail, because I saw one of the people in our chat that is a staunch, progressive, believing Social Security person, started to look at these numbers and say, wow, I never looked at it that way. And one of them said, Egberto, I think the government should give back some of that money if the person dies to the person heirs and relatives. And I'm like, well, wait. And first of all, Social Security is not a savings plan. Social Security is not there for you to put away money so that you can use it in the future. as I know a lot of people think of it that way and they like to sell it that way, but that's not Social Security. Social Security just ensures that if you are alive and you have a steady flow of some income when you're no longer working. That's Social Security. And all of us pay a tax for it. I hate that we have a separate tax called Social Security. I wish we paid we paid retired people out of the general fund. I think by having a separate Social Security tax, what we do is we give people the options. We give Republican, MAGAs, and neoliberal Democrats the ability to give people the impression that there's this lock box. You remember when Gore used to talk about putting away the Social Security in a lock box, not touching it. The truth of the matter, I think that is sort of silly, right? If you have all this accumulated cash, we should do what necessary for America at the time. There's nothing with a country that has something called a sovereign currency. In other words, if you create your own money, you don't have to do things like put money in a lockbox or anything like that. You expand your money supply as needed for the economy to run. And as long as your economy is not overheated, meaning as long as you have enough productivity in your economy, you cannot have inflation. And that is why even as inflation zoomed up to 9%, as soon as we reach steady state again, we so quickly dropped to 3% before anybody thought about it, even as the thugs, the corporate thugs, even as they continue to try to zoom prices, just because of the steady state of the economic system, the inflation jumped from 9% to 3%. They're trying to zoom it up again by jacking up gas prices. The cartel, again, doing that. We should make it illegal. We should force the price of gas to a certain level. But again, we have to understand economics before we can do that. And that is why we have programs like this out there to let folks know, don't believe what you hear from the plutocrats or the media controlled by the plutocrats. But going back to Social Security, as we were speaking about. So here's the deal. Social Security is not a savings account. Those of you who own homes, you are paying north of likely $200-$300 a month for your home insurance. Likely, you are paying more in your home insurance than you're paying in Social Security. Okay. Likewise, you're paying for your car insurance. You're paying for your life insurance. Many folks have something known as term life, which means you may have a term for your insurance policy for 20 years. And after 20 years, zoop, all that money is gone. Your home insurance, if you never make a claim, if your home is never damaged, and my home got damaged several times, but because I have a high deductible, I've always had to pay for it out of pocket, right? Remember, the plutocrats and these capitalists never lose. You do. It never conceived to this guy, our good friend, to say, I am going back to Allstate. I'm going back to State Farm. I'm going back to all these companies that I have paid all this money to and never made a claim. I'm going to them and say, you owe me some money. You owe me money because I didn't make a claim. But when it comes to Social Security, a tax being paid to our government, we have guys like our great caller calling in and saying, well, it's a scam. We want to get our money back. Let's get rid of the scam here. Here's the scam. The scam is to tell people that they could do it on their own. The scam is to tell people that they could take their money, throw it into the stock market, and somehow do better than having a Social Security that no matter what is there for you. That is the scam. The scam is not to inform you that if all of us in this country started to save, we would have a glut of savings. And if we had a glut of savings, you no longer are going to be able to collect the current interest rates that you collect on those savings.
right? Because why do past books and these things pay for savings? Because we want to ask people to save their money for a return. If we have everybody and their mother and their father and their sister and their brother throwing a whole lot of money into the banks no longer have to pay a whole lot for this saving because everybody wants to throw their money into the banks. And that return that for the small amount of folks that save right now that is kind of acceptable goes away because we no longer have to pay. And if everybody is saving, who is buying? If everyone is saving, who is buying? So these are the factors that guys like Brian they think inside of the box that says, if we go ahead and put based on the way money grows, based on compounding interest, that somehow your money is going to grow so much. Well, if you have all these dollars chasing savings, the value return on those monies go down. They don't tell you that. So therefore, if you did your amortization at 7.25%, which is what the stock market is, the growth over decades turn out to be, you're fine. But what they don't tell you is if in a particular decade, the stock market drops, you're hosed because the recovery can take quite a long time and you may be dead after working 50 years and saving and losing that money for that stock market to recover even as you draw. They don't tell you that, right? They don't tell you that unlike your whatever savings you have, your Social Security has something called COLA, COLA, cost of living adjustment. Every year, it compensates for inflation. So it's not a standard calculation that one can do with Social Security. Again, they are snowing you. When they do the tables and you do it yourself and you say, oh my God, you mean even if I just put away X amount of dollars, I would have so much money in the bank? Dream on, and dream on. That's not what really happens in the real world. And it is important for us not to allow the playing with numbers. And again, like I said, the worst thing that happens too often is that if you tie in a lot of truth with just the right kind of fallacies, we can all make bad decisions. A little bit of truth, we make horrendous decisions. Somewhat number of truth, we make bad decisions. So don't fall for it. Social Security is a must. Social Security is a good thing. We could actually, if everybody paid all their income in Social Security, in other words, Social Security's maximum taxable income ends at $100 and something thousand, which means the billionaires pay next to zero in Social Security relative to what they make. The millionaires pay less, near to zero compared to what they make. We, the people of the United States, we are the ones who pay most of the Social Security. And you want to know who are the ones that get screwed the most? The ones that help Social Security the most? The undocumented worker. Because they pay Social Security all their working lives. And we know immigrants come over here and they work like hell. They work hard. So the plutocrats profit from their labor at a lesser price. And we, those who receive Social Security remains that much more solvent because they, the 13 million of them, will never collect. Smoke that. So let's get real when we think about these issues, my brothers and my sisters. Don't fall for the lies. Don't fall for the misinformation. Don't fall for when they're giving you, look over there, we're doing this to you. Yesterday, as I spoke to my good brothers and sisters at the Unitarian Universalist Church, I looked at them and I said, keep the conversation going. Do not stop talking to those you think you hate, because you should really hate no one. You should consider everybody your brothers and your sisters. You know, you hear me refer to everybody, no matter who calls. my brother, my sister, that is not only because I really consider them a brother and a sister, it is because I can't hate my brother and my sister. So if I make sure to tell my mind, you're my brother, you're my sister, I remember that I must treat you like you're my brother and my sister. I don't lie to my brother and my sister. I don't misinform my brother and my sister. I don't do that. We shouldn't do that. So let's remember that.
Let's remember that, people. Let's remember that. My talk at the Unitarian Universalist Church yesterday was on civility, and we had a very good reception, and we had some good talking. And then after that, I had to drive another 50 miles to go watch the healthcare movie. I forget the name of it. Hospitals in America. How terrible our system is. All right. Rodin says, last year when I got hit by an SUV to the hospital after my primary care physician told me to get look at an ER doctor, a couple nurses, they did nothing, no tests, literally nothing. Sent me a bill for $950. No fault insurance took the bill off my hands, but I had to do a bunch of calls, emails, and paperwork. I'm not litigious, so didn't hire a lawyer. Over the accident, I'm mostly fine now, still have a bruise on my calf. I can imagine. Lee Grant says, here in Texas, there are many uninsured, undocumented alien drivers on the road, so we need no fault. You know what? Here on the road, there are several documented folks without insurance, and I know quite a few of them. And the reason why is that they just can't afford it. They just can't afford it. All right, let's see. Many people have low-paying jobs, hence the low-pay Social Security can barely live on it. I don't know anybody who could live on Social Security. I couldn't live on, I think I get my Social Security be probably pretty good. I can't live on that. But again, it's a safety net that's there. What we want to do is have Social Security pay more. We can if we taxed all income appropriately. We could pay more. We could drop the rates that we charge, and in fact, we should make it progressive. That is the fair thing to do. But you know how that goes. All right, Maywood, that's a message to every case. Rudnan says Wall Street is the rich man's casino. There's always more losers than winners in a casino. If we all invest in Wall Street as a retirement fund, that's going to be a horror for so many people who lose out. I think it's even better the way you said it, Radnin. If we all come to the conclusion and accept that Wall Street is in fact a casino, which it is, and then you look at it, you know that there is going to be a band of losers. Where there are winners, you also have losers. A person who sells a stock at a loss, right? Good point, Radnin. I think it's actually a more effective way of saying it. Lee Grant says folks can't do it on their own, so we need big government to tell us what to do. We don't need them to tell us what we do. We need big government, not big government, but right-sized government to make sure a collective can be used to make things better, not for one, but for us all. That's the thinking. That's the proper way of thinking about it, Brother Grant. Eric Hayes says have to have car insurance due to all the rise of the uninsured drivers that like to do hit and runs. They're the ones that raise insurance rates. Shame on them. I was a victim of this 3 months ago. No excuses for that. I've been a victim of it many times, including once when my wife came out of the parking lot with her car dented all in. So yeah, we have bad people, good people, regular people all over the place. So I read you, Hayes. I read you. Let's see. Michael Ronan says insurance with deductibles is such a scam. Yeah, tell me about it. I have a lot of insurance, and most of my things I pay out of pocket. Why? Because again, the insurance that we have, we just want it when it's about to take us bankrupt, right? But then when we do use it, we have to fight the insurance company to hope that they'll pay it, and thus prevent us from going bank. It's a racket. It's a racket. It's a racket. Let's see what else we got here. Paul Fleming is in the house. How you doing, my brother, Paul? He says over 100,000 people lost insurance coverage from the state of Georgia, of which $78,000 were children. But you know how they love their children. They love those children when they are zygotes. They love it. But when they become humans, they don't. What can I say? What can I say? Melanie Keelan is telling folks about my attire in the mornings. Let me tell you about my attire in the mornings. I run a strict ship, right? Let me see how to put this. Time is a precious resource. And as it turns out, I am starting to go to bed probably around between 12:30 and 1 o'clock to get up early in the morning for my 6 o'clock show, which I have to get up at 5 or so to get prep, all that good stuff, right? And also I have to make the time to do my spinning. You got to get off the frustration somehow. So what I do in the morning for the morning shows is I sport my cycling gear. Put on my cycling jersey and my tights. And as soon as I'm done with the morning show at 7 p.m. Central, I'm sorry, what am I saying? Yeah, 7 a.m. Actually, I finish it at 6:58 a.m. Central. I jump up, disconnect from the studio, jump into my place, and I start to do my cycling. Actually, my spinning. And after my spinning, I take a shower, and it's back to the cycle again, back to work again. So I have a whole lot of these pretty jerseys because I did a whole lot of riding. In fact, Bruce Pollard and I rode several MS 150s together. So from Houston to Austin, which is about 185, 190-mile ride. And we've done that for several years. I've done it with El Señor Roberto Luis. I've done it with Norman Reynolds. I'm talking about the people who you see in the chat that we've driven or ridden that on our cycle or bikes. We've done that long drive that takes us 2 days to do it, 90 miles or 100 miles the first day, 80 to 85 miles the second day. We love it. We love it. Haven't done it in a while, and I don't think I'd have to do some working out to do it. Alistair Water is in the house. Welcome, my dear, beautiful Alistair Waters. Bridge says, Egberto, I am one person, so I moved to have lower payments. I can get by on my SSD. Old house, my SSD was my mortgage. There you go. I hear you, girl. I am one person, so I moved to have I moved. Let me see. I moved to have lower payments. I'm not sure what we're talking about there. I may have missed something there, Breach. I may have missed something there. All right, explain that to me because I want all income taxed for Social Security, but maybe I'm missing something that you're saying. Let's see what else we got here. Melanie Keelan says, Alistair, see you on Saturday. Yes, for our Ask Egberto Anything. Michael Rodney says, Lee Grant, what you call big government is something nearly every other major nation have figured out in how to keep its citizens from falling into hardship or desperation. Egberto Willies, when I was in the AYH, I rode from New York to Vermont and North New Hampshire many times. Hey, girl, I love that. I love that. I love that. All right, we're coming close to the end of the show. I want to remind all my folks, kittens need my attention. So, hey, the kittens drug El Senor Radnin from our show today. Hey, go take care of those kitties. They need you, sir. They need you. I want to remind everybody that you can support our program by going to, I'm only going to put one link in the stream and call out one link because all the information on how to support us is in that one link, of which I ask you so kindly to consider supporting. politicsdoneright.com/support. You can support us in many ways, from buying our books to buying our t-shirts and shirts, to supporting our GoFundMe, to supporting a lot of different ways you can support us. Just go to politicsdoneright.com/support. And note that we don't only do this show. This show is just one aspect. This show is where we can actually interact with the PDR posse and hug each other virtually, etc. But there's a lot more that's done, from blogging to writing of articles to writing of books to creating podcasts, processing videos. There's a whole lot of stuff that takes me, yours truly, 16 hours a day. 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. My wife got a break. I took my wife to the movies this Saturday. She was ecstatic because we wanted to see what is it? Dum 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 dum. Mission Impossible, and it was great. It was great getting away. And she turned around and she looked at me and she said, "Wasn't that fun for a change? Didn't you just were able to get out of it?" And I'm like, you know what was so funny? As I was watching I actually went ahead and I was thinking of how does the Tom Cruise movie Mission Impossible equate with what's going on today? And she just shook her head and said, "Oh my God!" But anyhow, had a good time watching these movies. Anyhow. Egberto, I was saying my SSD would cover my mortgage. I had a tenant. I lived off of that. So moving upstate lowered my mortgage by 2/3, car insurance by 1/2 so I can get by an SSD. I got you. I see what you're saying. And that is something that I think is a lot of people would do. In the case if you have a big house, maybe you can rent out some rooms and all of that to bring that extra income in as well. We are going to have to do something of that sort because again, I made the strategic decision to use my retirement to do this to make sure that we could change the world. So, yeah, we are all going to have to do, those of us are going to have to do certain things to make life better for us all. Anyhow, we're at the end of the show. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.